Hmm. Hello. Ah, thank you. I'm on. Where are the questions? Sorry, guys, I don't see any questions here. Do I need to click on something, Indy? Well, hello, folks, if you can hear me. Well, I'll ask myself a question if one doesn't come up soon. Had an awful job trying to get on today. It's like, but, the maxim, just turn it off and start again. It wouldn't let me activate my microphone and camera. But now I presume it's activated, although I don't know if anyone's there or what's going on. Hello? Oh, we're waiting for questions. So you got to ask questions, folks. Okay. Well, this is boring, waiting for questions. I'm waiting for questions, Miles. We already have 22 watching me, waiting for questions. Come on, someone ask a question quickly. Can be what I've been doing with my life, whatever, if you can't think of anything doggy. But this is meant to be out of control dog. All right, I'll just tell you, I'll start talking till I see a question come up. One of the favorite things I do in dog training is, the questions come up under the screen, but which I could manage better my dog energy on the agility starting line, which I could. Okay, folks, a question is a sentence that has a question mark at the end. So I presume the dog in agility is barking too much. Okay, right. It's the same process with every single behavior problem that most people say, yeah, but he does it here. He's okay with this person. He's absolutely reliable, in the yard or in the living room or on leash or what have you. But now it's going wrong. So first, we got to make sure we have taught the dog the words that let it know what we would like it to do. And I would here, even with a border collie, I would start with it in a stand so that I can hold the collar and gee it up and get it ready to go. And shush. I mean, it's ridiculous in agility. And I was thinking of flyball. So let's start with the dog sitting by your side and quiet. So you need to teach it sit in every possible scenario, even when there are other dogs there running around, children, loud noises, or what have you, and you need to teach it to shush. So you start this by first teaching sit and shush in your kitchen, Well, it's easy to teach sit in the kitchen. You just say, Rover, sit, and then we lure it to sit. And when it sits, we say, thank you. Then we go stand and do sit again. Then we do stand and go sit again, and then down, and then sit up, and then thank you and give a treat. So that's how I start off. We're already phasing out food as a reward and treating it like gold. The problem with barking is you can't teach them to shush unless they're already barking. So we go about this two ways. We deal with it in everyday life, but we set it up so someone's knocking on the front door periodically or ringing the doorbell or whatever makes the dog bark, walking by the house with the dog on leash. And then we say to our dog, number one, always the verbal request comes first. Number one, we say, Rover, shush. Number two, the lure. We waggle a bit of food in front of its nose. Number three, the dog sniffs the food and therefore stops barking because these are mutually exclusive behaviors. Number four, you praise the dickens out of the dog and then maybe give the food lure as a reward. And then we hope someone stimulates the dog again. So we can do this whether the dog goes off on his own, like Mars was doing outside. At this time of evening, everyone and their grandmothers walking by our house, with dogs. So he runs back and forth excitedly, and I allow him to do that. What he mustn't do is woof. and I can feel it coming. First it's panting, and then it's like this, isn't it, Mars? Yes, he's looking at me. I'm talking about you. And then it comes out. Woof. Unacceptable. I say shush. If that happens again, then I say shush indoors. You just lost outside privileges. But this requires verbal control. So how do we do that? Well, we got to be able to teach it shush in every possible scenario. So it makes it much easier if you teach the dog to speak on cue first. And this was how I was going to start. This is my favorite thing to do in dog training, no matter what the dog's doing that's bugging you, whether it's jumping up, whether it's hyperacting and acting silly, whether it's running away from you, whether it's barking, you put those behaviors on cue. So now the dog's not doing it because he really has to, because there's someone out there, or I'm going to do agility in a minute, I can barely contain myself. He's doing it because you asked him to do it. Now we can teach the dog to shush on cue. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we teach the dog to speak on cue. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 1, Rover, speak. Number 2, an accomplice goes, that's okay, Mars, that was me tapping on the table. Number 3, the dog explodes, barking. Number 4, you praise it. Maybe bark along with it. And this blows the dog's mind. They think it's unbelievable. They understand me. This is fantastic, and you have a little barkathon. Then you say, Rover, shush, once more. So we yo-yo, speak and shush, woof and shush. And now we do our troubleshooting exercise. We do it all the way around the house in every room, okay, especially by the back door and the front door, where the dog may be barking at visitors or delivery people. Then we do it in the yard, our garden, in all the rooms of the house. And you keep telling the dog to speak and shush. Then you go out for a walk on leash. Every 25 yards you stop, have the dog sit, say speak and shush. You see, every time you do that, well, number 1, if you had a 3-mile walk and they're stopping every 25 yards to practice woof and shush, that's 211 training sessions you will do. And each training session is in a different scenario. Quiet streets, leafy streets, or urban streets with traffic on, really busy streets, Main Street, in shopping centers, next to a basketball pickup game, next to a children's schoolyard or what have you. And eventually, usually in one walk, with after 200 training sessions, the dog learned, oh, shush means shush. And now we do a setup for agility, not in a real agility competition. You set up a competition with your club, and you're all going to practice starting it, not doing it, that you can walk to the start line with your dog heeling by your side and looking up at you and respecting you, as if you've done some training and at least not ruining your street cred. And then you'll have it sit, stay, watch in heel position. And then you say, let's go. And you go over one jump, and then you come back, sit, and you leave the ring. And you practice that a few times over. Now the dog's ready to do it at a real agility trial. So basically the formula for nearly all behavior problems or training problems that have gone awry, you practice indoors first at home, and you check response reliability. And that is the number of the times the dog performed the response divided by the number of times you ask the dog to do it. So if you like, the number of responses divided by the number of requests times 100 gives you the percentage response reliability. That's a wonderful index. And unless you got 90% in the kitchen, then don't leave the kitchen. You need more work there. But you want at least 90% all the way indoors. And then you start on the sidewalk. And on one walk, you can get the dog up to 95%. And that is good enough. That means the dog would respond 100% of the time if you gave a second command, with attention and meaning. So we would gradually say, Rover, shush, woof. Rover, shush. Thank you. There's a good dog. And they very quickly learn now to do it on the first command. Why? Because then good stuff happens. You could say, Rover, sit. Good dog, go play. As quickly as that. But if he doesn't sit quickly and you repeat the command, the dog has to repeat the exercise all over again. He must sit following a single command, and he must shush following a single command before life as dog continues once more. Okay, ready for the next question? Won't stop going all day? What does that mean? It's hyperactive? Or is it going pee all day? Okay, it's hyperactive, I guess. Yeah. Just like Mars here, when I inherited him, well, he lived with me for about 8 months. The dog never stopped moving, never, unless he was in his crate. When he was outside, he played on his own. They were activity games. When I inherited him, I just can't live with that. And I don't mind high activity at certain times, but not all the time. I want to enjoy the dog lying next to me while I'm writing outside, like I was just doing. But then he was warming up again because it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, which is the high activity time. So it's very simple. If this is wrong, so before, if barking is wrong, or not wrong, I mean, it's not wrong for a dog to bark. I mean, they're dogs. It's like saying wagging your tail is wrong. But if that's not the behavior you want in this setting, you're finding it frustrating or annoying or what have you, then give it a name. And I would say woofing. Okay. So I'd put woof on cue. And then what do you want the dog to do? I would say stop woofing. Then I would put that on cue. Shush. Well, if activity is the problem, I would put that on cue. And what we use is the word jazz up. And when you say jazz up, the dog, all 4 paws have to leave the ground and it has to vocalize. And then we do the same and we get it really G'd up, letting it off steam. That's all it is. The dog's, his boiler is going and it's about to blow a pipe. So we got to let off steam before something bursts in its brain. So we say, jazz up, come on, woohoo, good dog, yeah, act like a frog and all that stuff, Mars. I'm just pretending for them. Okay, thank you. Big kiss. Oh, he licked me, I hate that. So, you want to see him? There he is. Good. And then you say, Rover, settle. And you want the dog to stop barking and lie down. Now, it won't do it immediately. Of course it won't. You'll have to repeat the command. But what we do is we play this game in my workshop, say with 80 dogs. They all jazz up on cue, then they all settle on cue. And we replay this game over and over, yo-yoing, jazz up and settle down until everybody in class can get their dog to settle down within 3 seconds. So that's my criterion. It usually takes just 6 to 8 repetitions. The point is, the first one is hopeless because you've never trained with success in that particular exciting scenario. And when you get your dog settled down, on the previous case, when you get the dog quiet, that's it. You don't do anything else. That's when you should continue training because you've done it once. You see, the first time is always the worst time. And most people go through lives, whether it's dogs jumping up on people at the front door, not coming when called, not sitting when told to, not settling down, breaking stays. And they live with that over and over until they eventually get the dog to do it. And then the dog's on automatic once more. No, you repeat it over and over. You don't practice how long will the dog settle down. It's how quickly can the dog settle down from being absolutely hyperactively, rambunctious and rumbustious. Settle down. Boom. Thank you. Now let's repeat it a few times. In real life, I do the same. If I say sit or shush, I must say he doesn't bark when we're walking or doesn't vocalize at all, doesn't growl, which is great because he's a big dog and that would frighten other dogs. But sometimes he'll stand and look at another dog or person. So I say, I won't use his name. I'll say, Rover, sit. And he doesn't. And so I say, Rover, sit. Rover, sit. And then he sort of looks up at me. Oh, sit, you mean? And he sits. I said, okay. Rover, heel. I take 1 step and stop and sit again. And I keep doing that until he sits following a single command, or he sits automatically. And then I say, okay, go sniff, go play. Or I scratch his chest if the other person is telling me their body language that they don't want my dog to come up and sniff theirs. And so I scratch his chest and praise him and maybe give him some treats. Good dog. It's dealing with it. And this is what people aren't doing in dog training these days. They don't know how to enforce a request without force, because they're not teaching dogs ESL. They're not teaching cued responses from the outset. They are not lure reward training anymore. You're not going to do this with a clicker and a miserable old food treat. It won't do it. When you're dealing with dogs about to obey agility and they're excited and they're barking, or the dog's really excited just about life, it's going to take much better rewards. Like what? Exactly what they're doing that you disapprove of at that moment. We have to use life rewards. Now, a lot of those are under our control, like go sniff, go play, let's go, let's continue the walk after having one of our 211 short training sessions in our walk. But the real life rewards are what the dog really wanted to do right now. For the dog, that is the biggest reward in the world. If you just let me do that, we call it a behavior problem. When you rename it to a cued response, it's a lot of fun. The other day I was stuck in traffic and I had this guy with me and I just told him to bark. I said, do you want a barkathon? And he looks at me. I said, you can go woof. Okay, speak. And I then started woof, 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 woof. And he barked and I barked and I barked and he barked. We had a great old time. And then the light eventually changed to green. I said, okay, shush. It's so simple when we think about it, but this exposes really a much bigger problem or question in dog training that I think positive reinforcement training has gone down the toilet. Well, at least it's gone down a rabbit hole, a really time-consuming, unnecessarily complicated, and relatively ineffective rabbit hole for controlling dogs' behaviors. And they explain this by giving lots of excuses, saying, well, I have to ask for the dog's consent, or no, that's too stressful for the dog. Interpretation is, I don't know what to do. As a failed positive reinforcement trainer or a great trainer using a technique that's failing, I don't know what to do now. So we have to bring this all back again and get people teaching off-leash puppy classes where we teach everything on cue. Go pee, go to your toilet, go outside, go upstairs, back seat of the car, front seat of the car, lie down, settle down in the play session, come from the play session, come and sit and stay and watch me in the play session. We do this week one in puppy class. So if we're not teaching dogs ESL, how do we expect to be able to monitor or guide or control their behavior? No, that's the way dog training is at the moment. It's like I have never been on this planet. I mean, think about that. Think how I feel. My last 50 years is teaching people lure reward training so dogs understand at least what we ask of them. And then we consider the dog's point of view, which I brought into dog training along with positive reinforcement and off-leash techniques and a little applied science back in 1982. And we use the sort of our view of the dog's point of view to reinforce the behavior. And I guess it's kind of like children. Let's say a child is active and vocalizing. We don't want to say, shut up, get out of here, quit it. It's a child, for goodness sake. We're talking about a dog. It's a dog. That's what they do. What we want to communicate. Please calm down and please quieten down and shush now. This is I call it a calm and shush zone. After you've done that, like if we're in a restaurant, a number of times with Jamie, when we're in a restaurant or a banquet, I would say, do you need some silly time? He'd say, yeah, this is really boring. He's at a Chinese banquet or something with, 100 of his relatives and what have you. I would say, come on, Jamie and I are just going outside. We go outside, walk away from the restaurant. I say, okay, be silly. And he just starts being silly, like jumping like a frog and squeaking and jerking. I say, give us a scream, and a miserable scream. And then I say, I'm going to be silly too. And I go like this. And then I say, okay, Jamie, be normal, Jamie. And when you teach them from this, that we're not saying you'll never bark or wag your tail in this town again, we're saying don't wag your tail here, because we're walking into a restaurant and everyone's having afternoon tea and the tables are very low. And you can destroy that big tower of little, tea cakes with one wag, or shush. We're in a library or in a cinema. And one of my favorite moments in training, actually, I used to work with Gina Isolde training assistance dogs for veterans. We'd have an outing every week, and we took 12 veterans and their dogs to the cinema to watch The Art of Driving in the Rain. And Gina and I both had a dog in training too. I thought it was fantastic. Not one wooflet out of any of the dogs. They all settled down. The only time they moved was when all 14 of us started to cry. I mean, it was so sad, and we're crying our eyes out. And the dogs immediately alert and sit and put their chin on our lap and do their thing. Give us a head to stroke, All right, next question. Do we have a lot of questions, Ginny? Just tell me yes. And then, because I'm doing lengthy answers, think we haven't got many. I have a dog that doesn't like my cat. How can I get my dog to be nice to my cat? Now, this is a different one. What we have to know here, like if we're talking about dog aggression towards people, dog reactivity to other dogs, in this case, interspecific aggression, dogs and cats, we can't use a term, nebulous term like doesn't like. We need to know, is this dangerous, yes or no? So, say when dogs attack people, I classify the bite on wound pathology. And we've changed the scale now from 1 to 6 to 0 to 5. And basically, when dogs growl and lunge, but their teeth don't touch the skin, we now call that a 0, because it is not a dog bite by definition. It's not even a dog nip. The teeth aren't touching the skin. Then we have the teeth touch the skin but don't puncture it. We have a nip. That's a 1. I mean, keep this out of the law courts. This is just rubbish. And it's the reason I wrote this scale. Now, number 2, the present number 2 used to be number 3. There's 1 to 4 punctures from a single bite, but they're all less than half the length of the canine. So basically, when we look at whether you're talking dog aggression or dog-dog reactivity, where there's lots of dog scuffles. I mean, it's what dogs do, like in puppy class, there's 3 a session usually. That's what puppies do. They fight, and for good reason. For the same good reason as they bite. So they learn how to play and to play bite and to play fight, or to fight for real without inflicting any harm. And I would say a good 99% of dog bites and dog fights cause no harm whatsoever. So solve them today. Got it? Don't talk about it. Solve it today. And if you don't know how to do that, then go to someone who does. Because a lot of people, they say, oh, we're dealing with red line aggression. Now, red line aggression is the victim, the dog, is in the vet clinic overnight, and the human is in hospital overnight. When we move into different species, it's more difficult, unless you've seen the dog and cat off leash together. And what we're talking about is the dog lunges and growoos and barks and prances, and the cat jumps up on a table and just looks at the dog and ignores it, swats his nose if he comes close. So we have to know, have we ever had interaction between the dog and other cats before? So I know I have with Mars here, and so I'm okay with him when we meet cats on our walks. Okay, I have him sit and stay, of course. The cat can choose to come up. Same thing with other dogs. I have them sit and stay, and if they want to say hello, they can approach him, and he'll remain sitting until I say hello. Then he can stand and sniff. So if we don't know, I would say don't do it. On the other hand, you can do what most owners do. I mean, I can't give you the advice what to do because I don't know, is it dangerous? But cats are very different from dogs. They're very, very strange. And for example, my sister had a cat for about 5 years, and then she got a little puppy, a little doodle thing, and the cat hissed at it, arched its back, walked upstairs, and didn't come down for 3 years. Just wouldn't come down. And then I was sitting there, I was visiting my sister. I remember she went, "Oh my God." I said, "What?" She says, "The cat's coming down the stairs." And this cat, after 3 years, came down the stairs, went up to the dog and brushed under its chin with its body. And the dog didn't move. The dog was standing, then it sat. And I don't know, the cat was putting out vibes, and then they lived together happily ever after. So a lot of people, they don't care as much about this as I find dog trainers do, or dog professionals. There's a massive sex difference here. In fact, it's a wonderful use of men in training. When the dogs are acting fearful or reactive, the dog's much better off being handled by a man because he's not worrying that much and he's not geeing the dog up. But your fear, your worry, your stress will work your dog up so quickly, and that we don't want. We could go back to it and deal with it the same way as we dealt with the barking and activity problem. And let's just teach your dog to sit, lie down, and stay. It's a simple obedience, but you got to troubleshoot it. Every room in your house, you walk around your house, you're going to do it 20 times, but each time in a different room, and then 10 times in the yard. Then you're going on the walk. You've got to make sure that your command, settle or down, whatever it is, your choice of words, prone, whatever. And your dog instantly does it without question. And if not, you had to repeat the command, it would do it. Then this is a different scenario because now the dog is not worked up and the dog can watch the cat. So you could go that route too. Whatever you try, because unless you do know, these have played together, then the cat's run away and the dog's chased, but then the cat goes stationary on higher ground. That's usually, they're okay. It's cats doing what they do, dogs doing what they do. And usually the cats are in the control of the scenario. But if you don't know, make sure you have another person, one to wrangle the cat and one to wrangle and train the dog. So there we go. Next question. Seems like we don't have many questions. So let's get them up there. Otherwise, I shall just stop. My dog has never had a hello, Lady D. Vanish. What a nice name, Vanish. My dog has never had an interaction with another cat. Oh, is this the same problem? Cat will hiss and then dog lunges and it sounds like they're killing each other, but there's never been a bite from either. Then that's, it's up on the good side. That's great that the cat hasn't severely grabbed the dog and bitten it on the ear yet and punctured the ear. So it's like swatting and hissing. That's very kosher. It's sort of in the feline Marquis of Queensberry fighting rules. And with the dog, the barking, could you put that up again, Ginny, please? I just want to see what lunges, it's found. Sounds like they're killing each other. So, even if the dog is growling. But here's the deal. If the dog wanted to get to the cat, it probably would get to the cat. If the cat wanted to harm the dog, it would probably do that. Their speed of interaction, well, I'll explain it to you. Like good human reaction time for people younger than us, like an 18-year-old boy, for example, because men have quicker reaction times than women, and boys than girls, and children to men. So a very quick reaction time is 0.2 of a second, let's say. We've slowed down to about 0.25, maybe 0.3 now. Or if we're daydreaming and driving, it could be as low as, as long as a second, which is bad news. You shouldn't be driving anymore. In the time that, say, an 18-year-old lad can pull their hand away from a growly, potentially biting dog, the dog can bite him 5 times. Have you got that? The dog's reaction time for biting, for eliciting and cancelling a dog bite, is 0.04 of a second. Now, that's very quick. In that same time, if a dog took a lunge and a bite at a cat's paw could smack it on the nose 3 times before it could bite. So the cat speed, cat paw speed is on par, say, with cobra striking speed or mongoose biting speed. So usually if they have been off leash together, it's cool. But I can never tell you, without seeing them. So I would say do it with 2 people and either have one animal restrained at a time. The dog is in a downstay, and if you don't know about a reliable downstay, it's in a downstay on leash, and the cat can do its thing, but the dog must not move from its downstay. And you're rewarding the dickens out of it. Or the cat is being held. Now be careful here, because if the cat struggles, so we want to make sure your cat is used to being held, or you could have kitty on leash too. I always train cats. Actually, I train all animals like I train puppies. Exactly the same. Off leash, come, sit, down, roll over, settle down, chill in my arms, be a rag doll where I scratch your chest and rub your tummy and examine every paw and every digit on every paw, extract every claw, clip every claw, do all the same stuff. So I always have different kinds of cats. They're domesticated like dogs. Yeah, I think we forget what the word domestication means. Domestication means that we have bred this dog for ease of socialization, but we still have to socialize that puppy, that kitty, that foal, that piglet, that calf. And when you do, you have totally different animals. I mean, I grew up with that on the farm. I loved it. We had a couple of old horses left over for when they used to have to pull things. 80 cows, 100 chickens, pigs, sheep. Then we phased those out. And 3 dogs and 14 cats. And they were all lure reward trained. Now, this was before lure reward training had a name. But people have been doing it since, the 17th century. In the 18th century, there's loads of books written in the 1700s on luring animals, on rewarding animals with food or with toys, shaping animals. This stuff isn't new. It's just we stopped doing it from 1903 till about 1982. And that was from when, what was his name? 1903. I want to say Conrad Lorenz, but no. He imprinting. The German fellow who formalized dog training on leash for military and police work. Then that was copied by Conrad Most. That's it, Conrad Most. And then it went on leash, and the only form of communication was commands and leash jerks with a specialized collar to actually cause more pain. And then it changed in 1982 when I taught the first off-leash puppy socialization training classes in Berkeley, California. And then the video spread that around the world so quickly. And so it meant by 93, I had amassed something like 300 names of people teaching off-leash puppy classes. And we had, more than that, but 307 of them came to the first Association of Puppy Trainers conference in 1994 in Orlando, where we renamed it or gave it a different acronym, APDT. But I loved it when it was Association of Puppy Trainers because it was really all about prevention, training puppies, preventing problems. Now that it's professional instead of pet, so we have a much smaller syllabus. The pet syllabus is unlimited. whereas the professional syllabi, say for competition or what have you, is extremely limited. You know the questions before you even do the exam. But I really liked the fact that the syllabus was infinite and we were preventing all these problems. Whereas now, the dog training profession, 85% of members, and this is not just in the US, it's in Australia, it's in the UK, 85% of dog trainers, especially the younger ones these days, do individual consultations only. And a lot of these consultations are by Zoom. Only 15% of trainers now still teach classes. The majority of these are on leash. That leaves us with about 3% of people that still teach off-leash puppy classes. And my next Zoom will actually be tomorrow for anyone who's interested, who still teaches on-leash puppy classes. And especially off leash, if they teach them on leash, would like to know how to do it off leash, or if they just like to learn how to teach puppy classes. So if you want to find out, because this Zoom will be 4 p.m. Pacific tomorrow, just email info@dunbaracademy.com and ask them to send you the link for it. So I'm starting a new association of puppy trainers, and I'm giving them all the syllabuses and the informations and their courses for free that Serious Puppy Training has used and still uses. And I'll do that up until the end of the year. From then on, we will start a school to train up puppy classes, and it'll probably be 10 grand you pay to get trained up. Because quite frankly, by the end of this year, I want to slow down in dogs. Hey, I'm so happy Jamie came up with the great idea. I'm not seeing any comments from you, Jindy. There's another question, so just let me know. Okay, hang on then. So let me finish this sentence. I'm so glad that Jamie came up with the idea of digitizing my brain. He called it digitizing Daddy's brain. So he followed me around for 2 years and videoed every different seminar that I gave. And that's what Dunbar Academy is. It's an archive, basically, of my brain. Nearly every article I've ever written, nearly every seminar I've ever given, the workshops, I still have about 20 in-person dog training workshops to go up. So, all right, Jindy, okay, question please, and keep it up. I take a long time to question from you. What's the first thing an owner should do when the dog completely ignores them in a high distraction situation? Train it. In a low distraction situation, I've explained this already. The formula for any problem, behavior, temperament, or training problem, what the owners say to me is, if I ask a question, well, what is it your dog's doing that's upsetting you? They say, well, he's totally okay at home, and he's totally okay, with children and with men and most women. But with men in uniform, and that but comes, but men in uniform, but in this situation, in the middle of a children's picnic, in the middle of a dog park, the dog just blows me off. This is basic training. You must go back and just read Lure Reward Training. It's all written down there. Go read my book. I say the Bible now for what I think dog training should be, but for Lure Reward Training is Barking Up the Right Tree. So it's my most recent book. And it talks about how there's 3 stages to training. First is teaching the dog words for each behavior, or teaching it ESL, English as a second language, so it can understand what we say, and then testing comprehension, coming up with response reliability percentages for each word. Sit. And the most useful word is sit. Next up, shush. If you say sit and your dog sits, and you say shush and your dog shushes, in every scenario, you've got a damn good dog. But you can't expect it, and you can train it in the dog park. Right? So I'm going to talk about 2 ways to resolve this problem. The dog is blowing you off. I don't care what it is. This question will come at me. I'll answer it 3 times, and someone will ask the same question, but they'll say, "Oh, what do you do when your dog, blows you off when you're doing a handstand or yoga, or when a child dressed in red comes to the door?" So I've explained the examples. You teach the meaning of the word and you test comprehension objectively. Then you motivate the dog to want to do it. So essentially, response reliability percentage is a single index of comprehension of the command and motivation. Got it? And we don't just use a food treat, friggin' clicking treat. Come on, that ain't not motivation. You've got to motivate dogs so that your motivation is far more powerful than whatever scenario he's in now. Occasionally, and you think, well, it is the scenario I'm in now. So that's why when dogs are playing in puppy class, we interrupt the play probably every 30 seconds. And I say, take your dog by the collar, have him sit, say, go play. And then after 5 trials, it's have the dog sit, then take his collar, go play. See, all this stuff is filmed on Dunbar Academy. Look at what's called Ian teaches serious puppy training, 1 and serious puppy training 2. So that you'll see it all there. The barking up the right tree is the Bible for everything and the stages we do it. So we phase out, number 1, teaching the meaning of the word. Stage 1 means we no longer use food lures. We don't use food in our hand. That would be bribing. Okay, we use it as a lure to teach the dog the meaning. 1, 2, 3, 4. Request, lure, response, reward. Got it? That's all the science you need, not this silliness we're learning about, the quadrants and positive this and negative that. It's 100 years old and it's ineffective. It's kind of like first day in kindergarten, whereas what's in my books is your postdoc study of dog training. It is so frigging lame, that century-old, out-of-date science. And it did a lot of harm. Why? Well, it's computers training captive rats. And what do the computers have to do? Well, administer food pellets and give the shocks, because they couldn't say good ratty or bad ratty. You shouldn't do that. I'll have to electrocute the floor. So it then legitimized electric shocks as the equal but opposite of rewards. We aren't even mentioning praise here, which to me is 100% better than any reward when it comes from your voice for so many reasons. Not only is it binomial and instructive, but it is analog. What do I mean by that? A food treat is a food treat. A click is a click. It never changes. Yet the behavior is different every time. Or the level of distraction is different every time. Therefore, the amazingness of the behavior of the dog listening to you is so much greater. And that should be reflected in feedback. I can do that just with my voice. Thank you. Good dog. Good dog. Oh, good dog. And then, woohoo, hot damn diggery, here's a barbecued lamb. Through a whole 1,000 gradations. Okay? So by that, we're going to use life rewards. Praise will be the number 1 feedback. We're going to phase out, not eliminate food rewards, but reduce them so we increase their reinforcing power. If we give too many food rewards, it decreases their reinforcing power. But then we're going to use life rewards, especially playing with other dogs, sniffing, and walking. And so the reward words would be go sniff, go play, or let's go. That means we have to integrate little training interludes into all those big life rewards. You can't beat them. You got to be part of them. So at that point, let's say it's playing with other dogs. Will you keep it up on the screen, please, Jindy? I need time to read it. Yeah. Okay. Or so, for example, if a dog snarls and snaps, it doesn't matter. When you say, let's go, that's a massive reward, but now it's let's go plus your praise plus 10 food treats in a row plus a bit of barbecued lamb you have in your pocket. So now we take the life rewards And especially when the life rewards are what we classify as behavior problems. We put those on cue. We let the dog have a barkathon. I used to let my Malamute pull on cue. Damn, I used to do cross-country skiing. Of course I let him pull on cue, going uphill and then pulling the sled downhill. It's usually for any behavior. I mean, even biting, but not harmful biting, there is a scenario when it's cool for the dog to do it. Okay, so we need to work and just teach the dog in the best possible scenario. All right. And then we do it in other rooms of the house. Then we do it in our yard. And if you're measuring response reliability percentages, let's say they're 90 in the kitchen, they will drop to 70 in the living room, probably 50 in the bedroom, probably 20 to in your yard, and maybe 0 on the sidewalk. Do you understand it now? The dog's not being an asshole. He's not dissing you. He just doesn't understand the word sit, on leash, on the sidewalk, because you've never trained him there. We should look on a walk as training the dog to walk rather than exercising the dog. The dog doesn't need that amount of physical exercise. You can't exercise the dog. All you're doing is training it for the endurance. Can you keep the questions up, please, Jindy? Good, thank you, good. And so now we move to my leash dog ignores other dogs on leash, but if a dog comes up to her, she snarls and snaps, but is never bitten. Any way I can get her to be more comfortable around other dogs? Yes. Power, differential, classical conditioning. So that doesn't mean you do the standard thing. You set it up. Your dog is sitting, then another dog appears from behind a car. Then it disappears, and it appears, or from around the corner, or out of a door. So this is a setup, and you obviously have an accomplice with the other dog, and you click and treat. That ain't going to do it. It'll take you forever. You have to use your voice. The feedback has to be analog. Yes, you can use, if you have a multi-clicker that has 10 different clicks on it, different tones, and they reflect a different rewards coming, but you can do that with your voice. Okay, but the point is, at the moment, your dog ignores other dogs. Yeah, that's good. I want the dog to sit. You take a step back and you say, come, sit, stay, watch. Can your dog do that in your kitchen? Then in every room of your house, then in your backyard, then on leash, on a walk when no dogs are present? You practice. And with Reactive dog, I'd practice every 10 yards. Come, sit, stay, watch. Until when you step back and say Rover, you take 2 steps back, which turns the dog around. Yeah, this is in the future, okay? You turn the dog around from the direction you're going to facing you, 2 steps back, sit, stay, watch. Eventually, you saying Rover, come, 2 steps back, the dog will automatically sit, automatically stay until released, and automatically watched you. Now, what if they break the stay? You repeat sit. That's no big deal. They probably haven't done a 22-minute sit stay like this on the street, like I used to do with my Malamute Omaha regularly, 2 a.m. I would go up, say, to a bollard blocking a, one-way road, and I would say, Omaha, sit. And I would just watch the dog. And by the light of a street lamp, I would read a book or read notes or write. We didn't have portable computers then, sadly. Well, we did, but you couldn't carry them. So why they call them portable? Portable, it meant that, a truck could move it, but not, a human being. And so the dog probably hasn't done that. I mean, I had a Jack Russell that came to me because it wouldn't sit still for a second. So I timed it, and it sat for 0.2 of a second and then broke. I said, you're correct. Within 1 hour, it now broke the 1-minute barrier. So that's what you got to do. And that's the use of shaping. It's one of the biggest uses of shaping there is that clicker trainers aren't doing. I call it baby steps, though. He sits for 0.2 of a second. That's my record. Can I beat it? When he does, I go, wow, well done. I don't give him the same click for 2 seconds as for 4 or 40. It's insanity. So I have my personal best, my record. And then on the third try, you know what we did? He broke the second barrier. I said, good. He just proved you wrong. He sat still for a second. Then we go for 2 seconds and 3 and 4, and I celebrate. And when he was beating a record, but still in a sit stay, I say, you've just passed your record. This is a new personal best. Who's a good dog? Yeah, it's a beautiful sit stay. And I like using the word sit stay, describing it as in praise, good dog. So I want a good 1 minute sit stay anywhere in your house or when it's you on the sidewalk. Now, when you see another dog coming, you stop, say Rover, come, take 2 steps backwards. The dog comes, sits and watches you. But he may turn to look at that other dog. Then you say, watch again. You correct him. You may break the sit state, sit again. We have it on video, for goodness sake, of my neighbor doing that on his very first attempt with his reactive dog that would hit the end of a flexi leash. Why we'd have a reactive dog on flexi leash, I don't know. But every dog that came by it reacted. The very first session, he listened to what I suggested and did it. And you'll see this in our, Reactive Dog Toolkit, I think it's called. He taught the dog to sit. It tried to look at the other dog twice. He said, no, watch me. That's all, in that tone. And we have it on film. It's about a 1 minute and 20-second take from the dog appearing over there, 40 yards away, and then eventually going out of view 30 yards away. And the camera pans the dog the whole way around. It's beautiful, but you need the control. Okay. Now, if your dog snarls and snaps, that's different. You've definitely got to get shush there. Oh, good Lord. And I would probably start to train that by training her to speak on cue with barks. I wouldn't do it with a snarl or snap. I would just do it with a bark and then speak and shush on the walk. Because as soon as your dog snarls and snaps, it changes people's perception. It changes other dogs' perception, and they're both more likely to harass your dog. You can make life much easier. So what we're talking about here is changing perceptions, the dog's perceptions, changing your dog's perceptions of other dogs and other people to change their behavior. And your definition of changing the behavior, so it doesn't do it anymore, all right? But we're changing perceptions, feelings, emotions to change behavior. Much quicker is what I describe and subscribe to, and is in all the videos on dunbaracademy.com. It's much quicker to change the behavior, of your dog, to get your dog to turn his back to the other dog, to sit, maybe wag his butt while he's watching you instead of eyeballing the other dog. It's the best way to change behavior of the other dog. People don't do that. They'd rather blame the other dog and the other owner. You're not blaming it, but you're acknowledging at that point your dog's out of control. So just take him to the next level. And we've lost that next level. It's so sad for me. 2015, we had it. I could do a workshop with 80 dogs. I remember I did one in Sydney with 5 bulls in a workshop. Adult baubles. If you don't know what they are, Google them. I'm sure you all know what tosas and dogos and feelers are and stuff. Or in the UK, it would be maxi pits, I think they call them, or some stupid term. All of these breeds are beautiful dogs, most easiest dogs to socialize and be absolutely reliable around people. Why? They don't give a damn if people kick them or punch them. I mean, they're tough dogs. But if they aren't socialized, they're as dangerous as any dog that's not socialized. So you can't do it, and especially if you have a dog that already has a reputation. Like, he's a pit, he's a Roddy, he's one of these giant mastiffs, which are banned in many countries around the world. Or in the old days, he's a shepherd in England, a German shepherd dog, or Alsatian as we used to call them. Or he's a Doberman. And these are the dogs now. You can't insure your house. I just trying to house insurance was cancelled here, and then Jamie's house was cancelled. So I eventually got insurance here for twice as much, 8 grand instead of 4. Jamie's, which was only 1,000 last year, is now $4,000. And I'm just looking at various policies and why they disqualified us. It's all to do with the fires, of course. Yet they don't name it, just make it as difficult as possible. Oh, how old's the roof? Oh, it's too old. No, it's because we're in California. They are discriminating. Yeah. And I think every Californian should get together and individually sue every company in a discrimination lawsuit. And then, hey, never mind, we're talking about dogs. And so we do both. Let's get her more comfortable around dogs. That's dog that she knows, and you know the owner, so we can do the classical conditioning setups using all sorts of rewards, all sorts of different types of food, all sorts of verbal feedback, ranging from thank you, sarcasm, to hot damn diggery, man. Woohoo! That is the best sit stay I have ever seen. There's no reason for you to get up on that Mars, okay? But much quicker is to just control your dog. And by changing its behavior, you can change its feelings towards other dogs, because now it's not around other dogs that are stressing at it. So you've changed the behavior of the other dogs. It's kind of like the whole little dog, big dog thing. The little dog owner always blames the big dog, and so does the general public. But you got to watch what the little dog did. He broke every rule in the book. He did the doggy equivalent of dropping his pants, mooning that big dog, and flipping it off, or giving it 2 fingers if you're in England. That's so rude, especially for a younger dog. He broke every rule. Of course the other dog growled, and maybe thought, I have to show this dog its manners, because if it weren't a dog like me with good social savvy and good bite inhibition, he could do it to another dog that chews him apart when he does that. So, if your dog ever growls or snaps or lunges, get it under control quickly. And we start with getting it to sit in the kitchen. Then we test response reliability percentages in more and more progressively more difficult and distracting scenarios. Of course, in puppy classes, we don't bother with that. We just start training the puppy in a puppy class. And for all the questions I've mentioned here, the barking dog, the hyperactive dog, the dog that blows you off, and now one that lunges and snaps, you could just do it in real time. You now know what to do, so do it. I saw a lady the other day, 2 ladies on the walk. I live on a big dog walking street. It's very, picturesque. And one lady who I've masked loads of times, I've talked to, she saw me coming with Mars. It's a very windy street, and we have a couple of hairpins, and she started to move away. I said, it's okay, I'll move away from the road and I'll get them to sit. And she came up to me really slowly, tentatively, holding her dog's collar like this. And when she got parallel with me, she ran with her dog. It's such a shame. So I'm actually leaving her, she wants bottles for an artwork. I'm leaving a message in a bottle tonight saying, if you want me to tell you how to resolve that, I will. I met another lady who's coming towards me on different sides of the road. And the body language was, we don't want the dogs to say hello, because having the dogs walking on the right while we were working on the right side of the road. And her dog did a little growly wowly, and she did everything right. She said, hey, shush, what do you think you're doing? Now, come on, walk on, quickly, hustle. Beautiful. And I'll say to her, would you like to go back and forth a few times so we eliminate that silly little growl? It's so easy to do in one session. Okay, next question, Jindy. How long do we talk for, by the way? Oh, that's our final question, Ian. We'll be wrapping up and going live in about 8 minutes. I thought this was live. Are we stopping now? I'm confused. Why are we going live in 8 minutes? I mean, wrapping up live. Oh, okay, in 8 minutes. Okay, come on, someone quickly ask a question, quickly. Ask a question. If there's no questions, I can't answer them. I can show you what Mars is doing. Hey, Mars. Come on. Up. Hello. Here's a good dog. Okay. He always looks so guilty, when I'm petting him. Yes, I know who's a good dog. Right, that's an Ask the Mars video. So let's, actually, Dr. Ian, I sent that 8 minutes ago, so we can actually end the live now. Everybody, I have to thank you for listening. It's very difficult talking to you when I can't see you, but I'm just believing Jindy here that we have 22 people, or how many we have now. So thank you for listening. All I can say is all the answer at Dunbar Academy. If you want to get it in a quickie package, by barking up the right tree. I have great difficulty, by the way, recommending my own products. I don't any longer. Barking Up the Right Tree is the best dog book I have ever written or ever read. It is totally different. And now Dunbar Academy is the best website. It's the only one to get dog training back to where it was, at the turn of the century. We had some golden decades, the 80s, the 90s, the aughts, and half of the 10s. And then it all went downhill and we stopped training dogs. So let's get it back there. Okay. Thank you very much for listening. I have really enjoyed it. So has Mars. Mars can say goodbye to you. Yep. Mars, we're talking about you. Yeah. Okay. And so we'll end it now. And thank you, Jindy, for doing this. I couldn't do it without you, of course. In fact, I nearly didn't do it even with you, right? Because I couldn't log on. So you say your goodbyes and I'll stay here and smile while we're disconnecting.